Yo, it's me. This video is part 2 of my Reincarnated as a Sword series, so go watch the previous one, unless you want to be confused, in which case, that's fine too. Viewing out of order might add extra value in that sense. I don't know. When we last left off, Donald laments his inferiority compared to Fran, but Midget-kun soothes his restless soul. Teacher expresses concern for Fran's safety, mentioning that he possesses a bird's leaf, which can yeet them to safety should the mission fall dire. It's goblin time in Goober City, whose population is currently being reduced to 0 via a cat girl with god powers. Teacher makes sure to collect the intact corpses for later, so as not to arouse suspicion from the adventurers trailing behind, who might find a lack of crystals and catch on. There is much destruction despite this, after which they reflect on the complexity of the labyrinth and the Booger King residing within. Teacher echolocates some freaks who conveniently lead Fran directly towards the king and queen's chamber. Meanwhile, Donadron rips hard, but not as hard as Fran, says Dwarf Bro. Teacher's technique yields favorable results, and the Gobber royalty are discovered. As these two are tricky targets, Teacher manufactures a cunning plan to share with Flurm. They begin the battle with an incredible display of firepower, but upon closing the distance, find that was enough to obliterate their foe. Fran is saddened that she couldn't participate, and invokes the power of Chisai to guilt-trip Teacher into feeling indebted. The rest of the goobers flee past this large, ominous door, which promises a fight with the Dungeon Master. Fran is pleased, however, upon entering, is met with a bazillion buggos, all of which Teacher deduces aren't particularly formidable, and so they are extensively diced into sauce for about half an hour real time. Teacher only now realizes that there is a distinguishable red one, which endlessly summons the smaller ones, and Fran nimbly executes it mid-air, becoming level 17 shortly afterwards. There isn't much time for celebration, however, as Fran senses a powerful presence from within the ominous blue door, suctioned betwixt the cheeks of a pink flesh wall. To prepare, Teacher casts several advantageous buff spells, including the morale increase given from the promise of curry. Upon entering, Fran is welcomed by a spiky pervert. Nell expresses concern to Kemplet about the dungeon siege, but is deflected with platitudinal wisdom regarding the presumed difficulty of their quest. The big homies stomping on Fran's tracks can't penetrate Dorchad's rigid carapace as their concern for their precious comrade grows. Fran's opponent is appraised to be a greater demon with cracked stats, the first creature that Teacher has seen to boast such immense power. Fran is taunted, but resilient. An additional voice from afar scolds the sunburnt miscreant for delaying and alerts our heroes to its presence. The actual Dungeon Master, a shrimpy bean stem with pathetic stats, nags his demon, who reluctantly obeys. Teacher reflects on their twisted situationship briefly, until the Master interrupts to brag about being able to summon more wacky Crimson homeboys to get frisky with the underground gig here at the Gob Pad. Moldy Chili responds with violence, insisting that he has complete control over his own free will, then doubles down on his urge to do battle with Fran. They exchange a couple blows, comparing their sword powers as they do so. Fran makes a bold move, but is baited into a feint and repelled. Her foe vanishes into the shadows upon seeing her recover, and promptly slices her hands clean off. This causes me great distress. Teacher quickly takes over to telekinetically reattach her limbs and telepathically recoup morale. I'm no longer in great distress due to Sword-kun's heroic actions. Fran is praised by her opponent for being so capable, who continues his barrage of teleportation attacks as Teacher swiftly ideates the technique's nature, that of a shadow. He unveils the trick, allowing Fran to land a hit. It's a shallow wound, unfortunately, and Ham soars across the room upon receiving a reciprocating magical blast. Despite both combatants displaying their capability, each still stands, pondering the other's next moves. Teacher ideates furiously, but finds himself stumped, deciding on the escape feather as an arguable option. Fran remains determined by the promise of curry, however, and continues to fight. Their clashes grow ever more violent, compounding to the demon's attempt to steal Fran's sword skills. Unfortunately for him, Fran's skills are derived from Teacher, so that's not gonna happen, bro. And there's a cliffhanger. To no one's surprise, Fran is still juiced up and fights back. The Dungeon Master decides now is the time to intervene and gives birth to some goobers, who are instantly exploded by the greater demon in a punk rock display of free will. After After settling the score, he charges up a big move, which rumbles the entire cavern. Dorchad remains stalwart in the face of Donner's attacks. Despite his desire to assist Fran, who is now in dire circumstances, Teacher insists that he feather them out of here, but Fran understands the cultural impact of letting a powerful demon live, and argues that she instead make a valiant last stand. Teacher is inspired by her radiant soul and warrior's tenacity, and the battle continues with all combatants consenting. Teacher ideates furiously once more as Fran gets launched around, eventually coming to the realization that if they just off the dungeon master, every monster within the labyrinth will perish. New target acquired. This also makes it much easier to fight against such a powerful enemy by forcing him into a defensive stance. Teacher takes the opportunity to strategize a bold move of his own with Fran, one that will end the battle in one strike. The demon takes a couple of seconds to recharge his juice. While this happens, Fran launches Teacher at supersonic speeds towards the dungeon master. Hot dog flavored muscle man picks up on this, but fails to realize that Teacher is sentient, falling for the bait and receiving the full force of the swift. Unfortunately, the process of exploding such a powerful beast was rather costly on his life force, and Teacher shatters like a pit bull to a glass table. Fran cries sorrowful tears, unaware that Teacher can self-recover. She once again uses the unrelenting power of Chi Sai to gaslight him into feeling indebted, then celebrates his prowess. Meanwhile, the dungeon master touches his volleyball to summon a more formidable guardian. Fran doesn't give him much of a chance though, and accidentally kills him while collecting his cool bracelet. And that is that, I guess. Donna, Drond, and the homies all hurry over to investigate the aftermath, finding a greater demon's husk and a lone Fran. They're shook. Donald is thankful for Flim's safety, but scolds her about acting independently of her commander by unleashing his iconic 100 review of the 10 adventurer rules. On the way back, Teacher reflects on Fran's various new abilities and strengths, as well as his own stats. Fran, however, has had the life drained from her, but is quickly resuscitated by the tantalizing promise of Curry. Donatello reflects on this. Anyway, Fran and Teacher decide to spend her skill points on sword skills, obtain the ability to imbue her weapon with magical effects, and the Skill Taker ability, which they had already seen from the demon fight. And Guildmaster Klimp's Fran is hailed briefly as an exceptional talent and forgiven for disobeying command, but there is one problem. Where is the crystal from this incredibly valuable corpse? Teacher expected this eventuality, and Fran responds with the truth, curtailing the part about her sword absorbing it via orgasm. Klimp's spirits don't seem to be perturbed, so he lets the matter slide. Unfortunately, an evil man twirls his evil mustache, claiming with utmost confidence that Fran isn't being truthful. It's August Allsand, the vice captain of the Alessa Night Brigade. Fran is afeared as Teacher reflects on Nell's words from a few days back. Additionally, Allsand reveals his unique skill, Essence of Falsehood, which likens him to a human lie detector. He instantly proclaims again that Fran is lying. Teacher is mighty sus and analyzes the potato, finding his practical fighting skills to be non-existent. However, this Essence of Falsehood comes with another perk, which makes the user's own lies more convincing. Teacher determines that this knight is just a poser with no moves, and Clint essentially declares the same. August decides to respond by confiscating the demon corpse, but the guildmaster tears his argument to shreds. August tries again, this time with a couple of perfumed attacks for good measure. Kim doesn't barge, and even threatens to bring the matter of withholding soldiers up with the local lord, Count Holmes. Teacher reflects on their power struggle, while Fran attempts to intervene by proffering a gift of goblin turds from the dungeon master. Allsand is all salt and rejects her gracious gift. This infuriates Fran, whose rage exceeds the molten fury of 10 million suns. Teacher reels her back from homicide to instead simply stealing his cheat skill. She sucks it right out of him, receives some court etiquette skills as a treat, then flaunts it directly in front of August, who employs an assortment of defense mechanisms as he flees. Nell is here now too. Klimp tells them that August is a loser who power leveled to achieve false glory. Then Nell reflects on how he is also Count Holmes' son, which explains the privilege. Anyway, Fran is thanked again and gets promoted to rank D. She does a curtsy as thanks, and gets going to receive her reward for clearing the dungeon. Mr. Dwarf, 11, takes the opportunity to introduce himself, along with a few others, causing Fran to buy everyone drinks. There is much partying. Later, teacher reflects on Fran's heroism, while telekinetically tucking her in. Meanwhile, August is going nuts in an alleyway. Teacher experiences the moment of his inception through a dream, awakening suddenly in a forest, confused as to why he was even asleep to begin with. It's curry time, and so teacher and Fran get to preparing everything. I'm not gonna tell you guys how to make hamburg steaky and curry, but here are a few scenes from the sequence to give you an idea of how it all went. Fran enjoys the meal to the fullest extent of her capacity as a being. Then they go do various tasks all over the place, while waiting for Garrus to finish up the armor. Also, for the sake of creating increasingly more exotic curries, which is partaken of along the way. While re-entering the town, one of the gate homies tells her about Viscount Allsand, who's been looking for Fran after disgracing himself in front of royalty and angering his father, Sinister Gargoyle. Teacher figures that Allsand deserved this result and senses the potential danger. Later, he finds that there are two: the pathetic vice captain, who Fran nearly gaslights into believing they've never met, and Guran, a cat boy who Sandy hired to turn Fran into a rug. She puts her hackles up due to black cats and blue cats being mortal enemies. Meanwhile, A-rank Amanda whips some birds and looks upon the city gates. Teacher inquires about cat history, finding that the blue cats are essentially betrayers who sell black cats into slavery. No Sand dances with glee in light of his assumed checkmate. Fran trembles with fear as Guran approaches to menacingly whisper base insults from behind. They clash blades. Fran continues to tremble as she recalls the countless times her family was attacked relentlessly by blue cats. Unable to regain composure, she is launched into a wall, continually bearing the torrent of psychopathic musings from her foe. His detailed recounting of times he brutalized small cat girls for fun is a lengthy soliloquy. Fran shouldn't feel the need to be so afraid here, due to inheriting supernatural powers from her cool sword, who also takes the opportunity to say this only after I've written it down. She resists her mortal foe, inquiring about his kill count. Gurgles responds vaguely, but it's enough for Fran, who has resolved herself to extract vengeance for her fellow cats, suddenly stealing his sword and hand. Fran's tweaking hard on raw aggression at this point, and spends some time slowly dismembering Guran. Teacher wishes to land the killing blow, even though this is clearly Fran's personal vendetta, but she gently lets him know that, and once more proclaims her determination to be a beacon of hope for all black cats, that her journey to evolve is not only a personal goal, but a punk rock act of rebellion against nature itself. Teacher reflects on his modern morals, and figures that he was mistaken to get in the way of this world's harsh reality with his idealistic ethics. The blue cat is decapitated shortly after, and tucked into Teacher's pocket. August is shook, fearing for his impending demise. However, Pimp's wiggly ball shows up to prevent more casualties. At his office, Fran likens his water spirit to that of a slime, which prompts Klimp to become defensive. Anyway, Count Holmes actually had a warrant out for August's arrest, so things worked out pretty good in that sense. After swearing to keep all of this secret for now, Fran joyfully goes to receive the bounty, but encounters a different sort of bounty upon leaving: a pervert who wishes to be her mother. Teacher is confused as Fran retaliates. The degenerate attempts again, this time overpowering Fran with her strength. It's Amanda, whose fondness for children tends to go overboard on occasion. Teacher checks out her stats, which are pretty whack. Amanda is already aware of Fran's exploits, and they shake hands. However, Amanda must report her findings from Teacher's genocide, and Fran pieces out. Unfortunately for Pan, Anaconda is a dedicated stalker, and follows her around actually everywhere. There is even a toast scene. Fran isn't thrilled about any of this, and struggles to escape Amanda's grasp. Nell reassures her that Amanda isn't a bad person, she's just extremely neurotic regarding the cultivation of young children. Armadillo sneaks up from behind to assert dominance, which garners some attention from the other adventurers. She insists once again that Fran call her mother, but is denied. Anyway, Klimt wishes to see Fran, so she proceeds to his office, startling him upon entering. He shows her his white girl crystal collection, all of which are fairly high-level ones. Teacher vibrates from the withdrawals, so Fran asks if she can have any of them. She may have two, if she fulfills a request to investigate a spider dungeon nearby. Unfortunately for Blimp, Fran has some intense haggling capabilities and is ultimately promised 5 crystals up front. Teacher reflects on her prowess as Clint cries. Fran questions his motives for sending her of all people and is met with the stark truth that rumors are circulating that he is a pedo for promoting Fran so hastily. Clemmy needs her to prove her skill in order to protect his crumbling reputation. To sweeten the deal, Klimt additionally offers Fran a pass to enter the dungeon in Ulmut, a place she was researching earlier. Fran accepts, just as her stalker vandalizes the office to assert that she will accompany her to Spider Town. Klimt has no choice but to accept, and later, Fran devours a curry while Teacher and her ponder what could be awaiting them at the dungeon. Teacher whips out his various drugs to have a closer look, finding some real nice ones, and promptly absorbing them all. He gets a level up, receiving a billion new skills, noticeably the summon kin skill from the bug battle in the Boblin Hole. As a cliffhanger for the next episode, Amanda and Fran duel, and that's the end of part 2 of season 1 of Reincarnated as a Sword. Hello? Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the video, like, comment, and subscribe. And if you decide that you have far too much money and want to support my empire of dirt, I have a Patreon you can sign up to, or donate to, or whatever. Thanks again. Bye.